Friends and family, welcome back to Nothing But Trouble. This is episode 2. We are going, welcome back. So, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1. Episode 1, I was coming out swinging. I make no apologies. Thank you for coming back and watching me again. I am here to talk about some significant things that have happened since the first episode. Now, the first episode, we discussed a lot of different things. We discussed some of the things that were going on with coronavirus and on coronavirus testing. This is stuff that's happening in our real world every day. Things you're seeing on the news, things you're hearing on the radio, things you're getting updates on from your Facebooks. But today, specifically in this episode, I wanted to talk about one of the phrases that's been going around for the last few weeks. And I think one of the problems that's indicative of some of the issues that we're currently facing as a nation. And that was the phrase, we cannot let the cure be worse than the disease. So a couple of days ago, I had a really good conversation with a good friend of mine. I'm not going to name him, but we had a very deep, long conversation about that very topic of the cure not being worse than the disease, and what that really means for each one of us as Americans, why the president says that, where he's kind of coming from, or the business leaders. And I can tell you straight out where that's coming from. There's no reason to mince words. I'm a very frank person, and I don't like to play around. I don't like to BS. I like to be very frank about it. And it's coming from a place of, we cannot allow this virus to affect the money that we're making. Nothing more to it. The fact of the matter is, the response, and I am a very frank person. I hope that you guys begin to become more frank with everything going on. The fact of the matter is, our response has been abysmal. I'm going to dive a little deeper into that throughout this second episode, but our response to this crisis has been abysmal. But let's break down the cure cannot be worse than the disease, where that comes from, and how that plays a role in how abysmal our response has been. From the very beginning, we look now, and over this past 7 days, even the last 7 days, some of this information came from before the 7 days. But in the last 7 days, if you look at the information that has been provided from the media, the information that has been given out at press conferences and just things like that, America knew about what was happening with coronavirus as far back as the holiday season, December. And yet, we did nothing to mitigate the risks. Nothing. Our leaders, who we've elected, who we pay with our taxes, opted to do nothing. Why? Why would I say that? Why would anyone ask that question? Why would our leaders opt to do nothing? Well, I'll tell you. Because they didn't want to hurt their business and their business interests. It's no secret. These congressmen, these presidents, our president himself owns a multinational corporation. The Trump business is in Russia, or they tried to be anyway. They're all over the United States, in different nations. They have buildings and businesses. He's a multinational conglomerate. He's a billionaire. And like any other billionaire, he wants to protect his interests. My dad always used to say, you have to follow the money. When you have to think about any crisis, or the response to any crisis anyway, or where things went wrong, follow the money. Hell, when they look at a criminal investigation, a quote unquote so-called, quote unquote so-called white collar investigation, they say follow the money. So follow the money. It's very simple. It doesn't even need elaboration that deep. The man did not want to hurt his business interests. So he didn't close down the country. We didn't mitigate the risks, and we didn't take it seriously. As I said in the last episode, I believe that they got rid of the entire pandemic task force in the White House a while ago. So by the time coronavirus hit us all, it was as if it was like being hit by Muhammad Ali without your hands up. You were going out for the count. We were not prepared. And even after we started, Donald Trump takes, the president of the United States, President Trump, takes full, he gives himself a lot of accolades. If you watch his press conferences, if you watch the things he says, I made the right decision to close the borders to China. He says, oh, they called me xenophobic, they called me racist, they did this and that, and a bippity boppity boo. But now, some 2 months later, and I really mean just 2 months later, we have lost close to 20,000 people a month. Do the math. 21,000. Remember the last episode when I said that by this time, this week, by the time I come up with episode 2, we will have doubled the amount of deaths. We would have surpassed Italy by a lot. We are now at 42,000 people dead and counting. But one of the things that has been talked about over the last week and over the last several weeks, even though we are beyond any other country when it comes to our infection rate, when it comes to our death rate, we still talk about the cure being worse than the disease. Last week, I talked about how we are the economy. We make the economy. The people, what we opt to buy, what we opt to leave out not to buy, we, the people, are the economy. But he doesn't see it that way. Most rich people don't see it that way. They believe that we have a responsibility to serve them. That is our responsibility to buy and to work to buy, to consume. That is the culture that we have. That's the way we live. Okay. That's American life. So when they talk about the cure can't be worse than disease, what they really mean is we cannot allow these people who work for pennies, and I say pennies in a very, because there are literally some people around the world that work for pennies, but you adjust for inflation in America, people that working for $7.25 an hour, that can't pay their rent, that can't eat, that have to be on government assistance because they work these jobs at $7.25 an hour to put bread on their tables, to keep the lights on, to keep the water running. These are the same people that they expect through all of that to continue to consume. And they're wondering why on earth these people are still not consuming. Well, I'm sure you're wondering the same question. Maybe you're not. But it's one of those things where this is the big topic of conversation. So now they've twisted it. Now it's a thing of, well, you're stuck at home. You're likely to hurt yourself, or you're likely to go crazy, or you're not having a good time. This is not the American way. Americans are supposed to be home. They're supposed to be out making money, not caring. They're supposed to be out being Americans, consuming. They're supposed to be out buying what we're giving them. But they can't. Lockdowns happen. 22 million people have filed for unemployment. People have been furloughed. I have family members that were furloughed this week. People are getting furloughed. People are losing their jobs. Economic realities are changing. I've come to the realization that now, in this America, there's only really 2 or 3 classes. It's the class of the rich that were before this virus that did not have to worry about making money anyway. Then there's the middle class of people that are working. And then there's everyone else who's been furloughed or lost their jobs. The definitions of the middle class are gone. The definitions of the poor class are gone. Now it's anyone who's working, or anyone who's had money, and anyone who hasn't had money and isn't working anymore. Those are your 3 classes. So some people have been demoted from being those who have money and had a comfortable life to not being able to support their family, being able to pay their bills, being able to keep this life moving along. That's the reality of the situation. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So then we have our politicians coming to us and saying, America wasn't meant to be shut down. America wasn't meant to be this way. We were meant to be up and going, making our economy roar, and buying and selling. That's our sole purpose in life. As if you were born to be a consumer. As if the government dictated your sole purpose in this life was to serve the corporations. Either you're working for them or you're buying from them. Think about that. Really deeply think about that. You are either working for a corporation and buying from it, or you're just buying from it. But you're either doing one or the other. And with the president of the United States, your president, regardless of whether or not you claim him or not, the president of these United States has said multiple times over and over again that essentially we're not fulfilling our purpose. Now, you ask me, and I'm a free person. I don't believe any of that BS. I was not born to serve a corporation. I was born with a unique life experience. I was born to live this life as best I could and experience as much as I could. This is a once in a lifetime thing. That's why they say it, once in a lifetime. A lifetime is finite. It is so precious. It's more precious than gold. But that's not how our country sees our lives. Our country has a reverse mentality on what it means to be alive. And I think that this crisis has revealed that about how our politicians and our leaders really view us as people. Where we're important, where we're not. They look at us and they say, you are supposed to be working to serve your economy. You are supposed to be doing more. You should not be locked up in your house to protect yourself from a disease that could kill you and the people you love. No, you should be outraged that we would have such strict policies, policies that we ourselves have passed along to the states and the governors and the people that are mitigating the disease, because we know the federal government isn't doing it. They don't care. Or at least the president doesn't care. But that's the way it is. We look at the situation, we see what it is, and what it is, we have a federal government that has had an abysmal, uniquely terrible response to this crisis. We are America. We are the greatest nation that is on this planet. We believe that wholeheartedly as people, that we have the greatest military, we've had the greatest economy, we've had the greatest setup, we have food. Some nations can't even feed their populations. We can feed our population for the most part. We have housing, we have programs, we even have a welfare state. And we spend the most money in our healthcare. We spend a lot of money on our taxes. Don't let Republicans fool you, because we spend a lot of money on our taxes. And yet we have the worst numbers. We have the worst deaths. We have the worst infections, the lousiest PPE response of any nation in this planet. That is our legacy with COVID-19. How does that happen? Now for the groundbreaking, earth-shattering realization about all of it. We are all complicit. Yes, we are all complicit. Because we accept that reality. We accept that the president says our economy is more important than the lives that we lose when we sacrifice ourselves to make sure that the American dollar doesn't lose its value. When we sacrifice ourselves to make sure that Walmart stays, the Walton family stays billionaires, or that the Trump family keeps their holdings in Mar-a-Lago or in Russia or wherever they want to lay their flag. Or when the Ford company makes money across the nation, across the continents. That is our legacy. We care more about our own individual self-interest. And that's not just the billionaires, that's each one of us. And I don't blame the masses for that. I don't blame each one of us for that. I think that's the way America, we have really kind of, that's our thing. But I think we're paying the price to a certain extent. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree. Self-determination is not a bad thing. You want to build yourself up. You want to be the best. But one of the things I believe, and I might be a lot of disagreement about this, and I frankly don't care, but a lot of things that we have left behind in that self-determination is the sense of us. We have gone to the I, our ego, the ego of the individual. How many people can truly say, and with a straight face, that as a collective country, we have done our best to take care of our neighbors? I'm not speaking to an individual that does it. God bless you, and I hope you continue to do it. But collectively, what have we done to take care of our neighbors and not prove that point that we care less about the disease and more about the cure? The cure is asking us to sacrifice. our self-determination. It's asking us to sacrifice what we want so that our neighbors can survive, so that we can thrive as a people. And many people protest that. It's just this weekend. We had protests here in Maryland, in my own state, in Annapolis. People were driving around in their, 1980s Caddyshack, family vacation cars with their flags out, their Maryland flags, waving them around, talking about how patriotic they are. No, don't tread on me. I am an American citizen. I have rights. I should be able to be out running around, getting sick and giving it to whoever I want. That's how some people believe. And, America they don't necessarily oppose that belief. Okay. But we all pay the price. We all pay the price for our individual beliefs. We are interconnected, whether we believe it or not. Humans have always been interconnected. We all started this journey together. Billion years ago on the continent of Africa. We all started this journey together, and we all branched out together. We have been interconnected from the very beginning. And where one influence spreads, it spreads to others. And that has been that way. You look at the history of our planet, history of our people. One group of people can influence an entire world of people. And in our country, we have forgotten, I feel, personally, our love for one another. Our desire to actually care about the cure. We are more concerned that the cure will mess up our economy than we are that the cure will save individual people from dying. Death is final. There's no coming back. There's no amount of money that you could attain in this life that will replace those you lose. The 42,000 people that have perished because of this disease. There's no amount of money. There's no amount of checks the government could write. There's no amount of praying you could do to bring them back. Trust me, I have lost people. I lost my parents. I know. And I've known many people throughout this crisis that have had to bury their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their family because of this. And they can't pay to get them back. They can't do anything except accept the reality of the situation. And that is that when they turn on the news and they see us out there protesting, talking about we can't stand our cabin fever, we can't deal with it, we can't stand having to watch the same Netflix programs over and over again, that it is worth our lives and the lives of other people because we cannot unite as a people to protect each other. They have to stomach that. They have to deal with that. They have to swallow that. Some people don't even believe them. Some people don't even believe their struggles and their sacrifice or the loss of the lives of the people that they loved that will never come back. We are at 42,000 people. What I said last week wasn't a lie. It's a fact. At this rate, we're going to be the worst off country on the planet. At this rate, we're losing 20,000 people a month. That's a lot of people. You know, I did the math earlier. If we continue acting the way we're acting, thinking that we can continue to play games with each other the way we're playing games, whether it's racism, sexism, xenophobism, classism, 20,000, by the time they anticipate we might have a cure, which is the spring, which is a year from now, we will have lost almost a quarter of a million people just so that our system can maintain its status. Our system is not perfect. We are fighting and uplifting a system that is built on the exploitation of other people, of our people. They don't care about you or me. They don't care. That's why they say that the cure can't be worse than the disease, because they don't care about you or me. They don't care what happens to me. They don't care what happens to my family. They don't care what happens to your family. They want to make sure that their profits are not lost. They don't care about having to fire you. They fire people so that they can ensure that their businesses stay intact. That's what they're doing. That's what a furlough is. That's what a layoff is. I love WWE. They fired 40 people and their stocks went up. They made money off of letting people go. You tell me really what you want. That's what you think is the best route, is to support businesses that would rather fire you and take the money off of your table, out your family's mouth and out your mouth to ensure their survival, not giving a damn what happens to you or your family over somebody who you don't know, who you never gave a chance to because you were too concerned about taking care of yourself. We are not built. We were not made on this planet alone. Yeah, some of us, except twins, we come into this world alone. But we were there with our mothers and our doctors. We didn't come into this world. We weren't plopped into this world. It wasn't a stork that just dropped us off. We come from somebody who comes from somebody who's related to somebody. Who else is related to somebody? We are not alone. We've never been alone. We're brothers and sisters, all of us, regardless of our race, the fugazi of our race or our class or our popularity, which means nothing now. If any time in its history, it means nothing. We're all on a level playing field now. We're all just as popular as each other. We all have to survive. And your popularity, your class, your race, your amount of money you have doesn't mean anything anymore. We're all equal. Don't let them lie to you, because that's what they're trying to do. Don't let them tell you that it hurts one group of people more than it hurts another. People are dying, and it doesn't matter their race. This virus doesn't care. This virus does its job. Its job is to infect as many people as it can to survive. And it doesn't care about killing off human beings. It doesn't care. Because guess what? It's going to infect as many people as it can. And we could have beaten this virus. I really believe that. As Americans, we could have beaten this virus and bested this virus if we did not believe that it was worse to care about others, to contain ourselves, give up our creature comforts, our walks in the park, which are not bad, but our parties, our events, just so that we could take care of those that we love or those that somebody else loves. Empathy. We cannot, no business has ever built itself. Doesn't happen that way. It's built off the backs of its workers. And no country can build itself. It's built off the backs of its people. Each country, each business, each everything is built off of the backs of the people that have built it. And in our country, in our system's case, the people that our country has exploited. And let's not make any mistake. This country has exploited all of us to get where it's at. To be the best country on the planet with the best economy, you have to, our country has built a system of exploitation of everyone. We have, our system is designed to pit each one of us against each other so that a few can remain on top and many can remain at the bottom. It's as if our system was built to slowly bring us all back to a feudalist society where there are few kings and many peasants. Think about it. Think about life before this and now. Think about those who get the tests. Who is getting the tests? Who has 2 and 3 and 4 tests? Those who have money. Those who were not peasants before this. And if things continue to go as they seem to be going, those who will not be peasants after this. They are taking care of their own. The rich have no problems. 4 tests, don't matter. Some people can't even get a test. You have doctors can't even get tests. But you got Joe Rogan, and I like Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan's getting tests. He got tested twice. Some people can't get tested once. Some people, a doctor says, well, it looks like you might have coronavirus, so go home and don't show up for weeks. That's the best I can do for you. I can't test you. I don't have the resources. But Joe Rogan walks into the same clinic, and he's had 2 tests. Let's not kid ourselves. And this is not a black thing. It's not a minority thing or a lower class thing. There are white people. There are people that, and I'm sorry, I keep bringing this point up because I have to. In our country, we have to. I'm a frank person. Remember, I keep saying that. Frank, it's a thing. You don't have a privilege in this. Your privilege is your money. And if you don't have the right amount of money, you will not get a test. And you're taking your chances. So when they're telling us we can't let the cure be worse than the disease, what they're really saying is, if you're not a billionaire making a whole lot of money right now, you're a slave and you need to be working. You need to be risking your life for your $7.25, your $10 an hour in a world that requires at minimum $50,000 to survive, and you're making 22. Our essential workers are making about $22,000. Some of them making $22,000 a year. And we're asking them to go out there and risk their lives for us with a straight face. How can we say we care? We put on this facade, this great American facade about caring. But what are we doing to show we care? Are we fighting for their money, for them to make more money? No, we're protesting having to stay at home and watch Tiger King, which was a great show. I love Tiger King. It was hilarious. Fuck Carol Baskin. All love to Carol Baskin and all love to Tiger King, whatever. It's a great show. But that's what we're doing. we're sitting here being mad about having to sit at home and work from home, some of us, and we can't go out for our picnics. And yet, we are not out there protesting so that our essential workers will make more than $7.25 an hour. But we have the audacity to go out there and say, well, I don't want to be home anymore. The American economy wasn't built to have us sitting at home. Like I said earlier, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about this. The cure can't be worse than the disease. I believe that the disease is worse than the cure. We haven't truly diagnosed the disease of our country and what's causing our failure as a country to address this current virus, because it's structural. See, this virus is like it was like the levees in New Orleans. The levees were built poorly in the 1960s. They were bound to collapse. And so they did. They weren't built with love and care and concern for the people that live there. They were built to address the crisis that occurred before it, so that they could say, we did our job, we rebuilt the levees, and you know what? We're good. We don't have to worry about it. The people believe they're rebuilt. That'll be a future generation's problem. And that's what we have done over and over again in American history. We have pushed it to the future. And now it's caught up with us. So the question you have to ask yourself now, when will we start caring enough to take care of those we love and those people that we know, the people that they love? Because until we actually commit as a community to take care of those we love and those people that we know and who they love, and we continue to concern ourselves with our own self-interest, we will never, ever be able to stop something like this without horrific ramifications. If we continue down the trend we are heading down right now, we can't stop ourselves from ourselves. We can't save ourselves from ourselves. But we can't get out of our own way with our racism, our ignorance, our sexism, our xenophobism, all of those isms that make America the country that it is. We will destroy our country. And I cannot be more plain than that. I cannot be more somber than that. Our country will not be destroyed from without. It will be destroyed from within. We are our own worst enemies here. Other countries are licking their chops right now. They're looking at how bad we're failing as a country because we cannot unify under one idea that each one of us is more important than our businesses. We're more important than our social media. We're more important than our popularity. We're all unique, every last one of us. There's not one person out there who was built better than anybody else. And I don't care what you think. You who think you are, trust me, you're not. You die, you live and you die like everybody else. So while you sit there with your money or whatever thing you think you have, you are not better than me or anybody else on this planet. We are all created equal. We all live this life together, and we will all leave this life at our own time. But we are all connected while we're here. Come together. If there's any message you can get from my show or from this episode, it's to come together, because until we do that, we will doom ourselves to being perished from this earth. It is not the first time a civilization that has happened to a civilization. We compare ourselves to the Romans. The Romans did not listen. They could not reason. They cared more about their empire and the money they made than about the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is the people. And we have to unite our people. The Americans have to come together. The Black Americans, the white Americans, Hispanics, Asians, every American, all of us, all of our ethnic backgrounds from whatever country. We are the greatest melting pot on the planet. We have to come together as the greatest melting pot. We are the best of all worlds, the best of all the continents. There's no other experiment in the history of mankind like America, where all of the greatest continents, all of the greatest civilizations have come together to create one great nation. We have the promise of being the best, the future of humanity, where humanity can become greater than it ever was before. We have done it. We have proven we can do that. We took a man to the moon. We created the car. We created the internet in this country. It wasn't because Americans are better than the Europeans or the African people in Africa. It's because we all came together as one human force of all nations, of all peoples, of all ideas, of all backgrounds, and said, let me roll up my sleeves and let's fix a problem. So now we have a problem in front of us. That problem is coronavirus. That problem is a bad system. So let's fix it. Let's make it better than it was. Let's build an empire that will last thousands of years and that our children can survive under, that other nations can survive, that we can thrive together as a united force to make our world better for everybody. The normal days, the old days are over. Newsflash in Mexico. The old days are over. It is now time for us to move on. It's time to begin a new world. They're planning it. I guarantee you that. The powers, the rich, they're already mapping out the new world. The question is, are you going to be just another line on a map for the new world, how they draw you out, another dot? Or are you going to step up, grab the pencil, and say, you know what? I'm not going to let you draw my map. I'm going to have some say. I'm going to help dictate this new world order. And the new world order should not be an order of the few. It will be an order of us all. Thank you so much. Join me next week. We will continue to dive into the next topics. Trust me, there's plenty to talk about. So join me next week. I look forward to it. This is Nothing But Trouble. I'm Rashawn Wood. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.